Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. We are now in the week before Halloween. One of the top three kid holidays of the year. You got Christmas, you got Halloween, you got your own birthday. Those were the biggies every year for kids back in the day, and I'm sure still today. That's when you were getting presents, it's when you were getting candy. And the day after, when you realized it was going to be an entire year before you got to do it again. And obviously for kids, an entire year is a lifetime. But we're in that week right before Halloween, and this in itself was a big week when I was a kid. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, because it's when the Halloween specials started to show up. Now, let me take all of you youngsters, you folks in your 30s and 20s, teens and aughts, I don't know. Let me take you back to a time before VHS, betas, VCRs, before DVDs, before streaming, before all that. You had one opportunity a year to see these specials. That was it. It was on a particular night at a particular time, and if you weren't in front of the television, you didn't see it for another year. Which, again, for a kid, is an eternity. So these were big deals. These were things you annoyed like your father with because, hey, let's go to eat tonight. We can't go eat tonight. Charlie Brown special's on. But it was a big deal when we were kids. And even though I'm about to trash a few of these things, I'm just giving my own opinions on them. Even though I'm going to probably trash a few of these things, I will tell you, even if you didn't like it, you were excited to see it. It was kind of the same way as getting like a Mounds bar for trick-or-treating. You didn't like coconut, but hey, it's a candy bar. You're going to eat it. Right? You may not like some of these things, but you were going to watch it because it was something in prime time that was not designed for your parents. All right? It ain't Dynasty. It ain't, I don't know, whatever the hell they were watching. It was something for kids, and that was exciting in and of itself. So, let's jump in. I'm gonna sort of rate these. Now, these are all specials that come from my childhood, 70s and 80s, and I'm just going to tell you what I kind of remember about them. A few of them I've also watched as an adult or only as an adult, and I'm giving you my ideas, my thoughts on these things. Your mileage may vary, and I'd love to hear about it in the comments if you want to trash my horrible, horrible takes on these things. So we're going to start off with the Halloween that almost wasn't. 1973. This has got to be one of the worst specials I've ever seen. Now, I remember this vaguely from childhood. I didn't remember much because it wasn't that freaking memorable. And I watched it again as an adult, and oh, it is as dry as unbuttered toast. And the sad thing is, it won Emmy Awards. It won Emmy Awards. It was written by a guy who wrote for Phil Silver, who wrote for Gleason and Carney, who did some good stuff, and it's got some genuinely good people in it. Judd Hirsch being one of them. It's got Jack Riley, who, if you don't know Jack Riley, look him up, because if you're my age, you definitely know Jack Riley. You got John Schock, Henry Gibson. It's got some decent people in it. God, this thing just does not work. For me, at least. It's just boring. It's not funny. In fact, it feels like, and maybe this is the problem, it's written by a guy who does grown-up comedy, and he's trying to do comedy for kids. And sometimes, doesn't work. It's they just don't know what the kids want. Parents just don't understand. So, 1973, the Halloween that almost wasn't. Dude, if you love any of these people, watch it. Actually, if you love any of these people, maybe don't watch it. But if you kind of like some of these people, maybe give it a watch. But oh boy, that was boring. Halloween is Grinch night. The Grinch Christmas special, top tier. One of the best things ever made. Dr. Seuss, uh, Chuck Jones, awesome. Boris Karloff, uh, Raven Thurlscroft, awesome. Halloween is Grinch night. Yeah, I just watched it to kind of bone up on it because it was another one I didn't remember that well. Man, it sucks. It doesn't suck. It's not like actively bad, but it's boring and nothing really happens. It's just sort of kind of keeps going. It's from 1977. I would have been 5 when this thing came out, and oh, it was so boring. I don't even have any other images for this thing that are worth looking at and worth talking. I got nothing. Halloween is Grinch night. A wind comes up, and that means trouble, and the Grinch comes down, and the Grinch doesn't really do anything, and the kid gets blown out there, and it just goes nowhere. You can't necessarily go home. I was going to say you can't go home again, but until we get to the top one. Garfield's Halloween Adventure. This is a later one. Yeah, I don't have the year written down. It was 80s. It's not a bad special in and of itself, but I'll admit I was a big Garfield fan when I was a kid. I really thought it was funny for a while. At a certain point, you kind of go, this really is kind of the same joke over and over again, and the joke's not that great to begin with. But at the time, like, I was super excited. Halloween, Garfield, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be great. And I remember even as a kid being like, his really wasn't that good. Again, you'd sit and watch it because you got your parents in the room with you. You know, keep in mind, we're 1 or 2 TVs in the house. So you're probably watching it with your parents. And, dude, you'd be watching these things almost like, you remember in Ren and Stimpy when Ren was eating the kitty litter and trying to pretend to enjoy it? You're kind of like, yeah, I'm really enjoying this program. Please don't turn it off. I really love it. And the fact of the matter is, I didn't really love it. It was really disappointing. None of the Garfield animation cartoons to me were really that good. They tried to like be poignant and all that, and of course you got what's his name's what's that guy's name? He did the voice of Garfield, and then was Peter Venkman in the later, cartoon. You like the voice, but yeah, cartoons were very underwhelming. They just didn't perform. They just weren't really that funny. I defy anybody to remember anything that happened in this. It's not like something we all talk about or laugh about at this point. Kind of sad. I mean, it's cute. They're dressed up as pirates. Is this boring? Okay. Now, if you see my video on 5 things that freaked me out as a kid, this is one of them. This is Witch's Night Out. Done, I think, partly with Canadian money. Canadian government has some things to answer to in terms of entertainment. And I'm talking about Caillou. Caillou's something I had to watch because I had a little kid in the house. And I'm like sitting there going, oh, this isn't good. And now I talk to millennials and there's like abject rage about Caillou from a lot of people who watched it as kids. Weird. Anyways, Witch's Night Out. Now you do have some good people involved. The animation, the design is very much of its time, 1978. So again, I would have been about 6 when this came out. This is animation in a style that we kind of got used to at the time. It's kind of hippy dippy. Keep in mind, man, Gen X, we were raised on like, HR Puff and stuff. And a lot of really, frankly, weird stuff. And we dug it. But I think even as a kid, it was kind of like, Is that one lady naked? I don't, I don't understand. Why is she naked? Make her stop being naked. I don't know what. Anyways, it's a weird cartoon. Um, Gilda Radner does a voice, and she's awesome. I think maybe Lorraine Newman does too. But the main thing about this, it's about like these kids. The witch casts a spell, and these kids turn into monsters, and everything's going weird, and then it gets resolved. I don't know. But the main thing was the friggin' witch freaked me out as a kid, and it made a mark, and it lasted for a long, long, long time. So weird that I'm putting this thing above Garfield, but at least this thing made an impact. At least I remembered it. And I will actually suggest, if you like weird stuff, go check out Witch's Night Out. It's not great, but it's odd, and it's probably worth watching from that standpoint alone. Halloween with the new Addams family. Okay, it's not good, which is really sad because the Addams family, the old TV show, is great. But, and you do get the cast back together again, which is pretty awesome. It's pretty rad. Wednesday's there. You got Ted Cassidy, doing his thing. I mean, it's like that part's kind of good, but the writing is really not that good. And like they introduce Gomez's brother, who looks exactly like him, pretty much, and they introduce like Wednesday Jr. and Pugsley Jr. But I mean, it's like Gomez and Morticia's kids that they just named Pugsley and Wednesday again. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I guess maybe they were going for a new series and they weren't going to have some of their regulars, so they were maybe trying to bring new people. I don't know. It really doesn't quite work, but I got it on here just because I love the Addams family and it's cool to see the cast again. But it's another one of those ones that just kind of drags and the jokes don't really hit. And if memory serves, it really could have used a laugh track to sort of lighten it up a little bit. I know people make fun of laugh tracks, but they actually had a place in sort of putting a little energy into things. But give it a watch because hey, you got Carolyn Jones and you got John Aston and like I said, Ted Cassidy. It's cool from that standpoint. All right, Mad Monster Party. This one is a little bit before my time, 67. And I don't think they were playing it when I was a kid. I don't really remember it, at least from my childhood that I can remember. It is Rankin-Bass. And it does have some awesome design. Some Mad Magazine alums were in here. But I got to be honest with you, it's another one. It's kind of slow, which is weird for a Rankin-Bass special. Because, like Santa Claus is coming to town, Rudolph, they move. They move pretty good. It's a quick watch. Packs a lot into it. I don't know if it's because of the monsters, but this one just kind of it kind of sludges by. I didn't love it, but I love the design and it's great work. It's your typical Rankin-Bass quality. It's got Francesca in it, which is she's maybe the hottest puppet who ever lived, at least at that time. I mean, they put a lot of care into her. You got some mop tops in there. You got a song by Phyllis Diller. I like Phyllis Diller. I'm not anti Phyllis Diller. I enjoy her to a point. It's not a good song. It's not a good song. I've heard tell of it being used to torture people, and that's not a joke. And I mean, not really torture, but you know what I mean, to get on people's nerves. But from a standpoint of the animation style and all that, it's definitely worth a watch. But it's not It's not great, and it's not super memorable. All right. The Paul Lynde Halloween special. Again, we're in variety show territory. And big in the 70s. This was 76. I'll be honest, it ain't good. The the sketches don't really work. Paul Lynde, I like Paul Lynde. I think he's funny. He did some good stuff. His sitcom was actually really funny. And I love him as Uncle Arthur on Bewitched. So I'm pro Paul Lynde, Center Square, Hollywood Square, awesome. Like the opening sketch, well, it's not the opening, but like the first real sketch they do, Tim Conway's in there. I love Tim Conway. Pinky Tuscadero's in there. Not so good. But they like play a couple of truckers who are hitting on it's you're watching it and it's like it's awesome from the cringe factor of like what in the heck am I watching here? But it's not really funny. You know, it's not really that funny. Now, you do get some scenes with Margaret Hamilton and Witchy Poo from the aforementioned H.R. Puffin stuff. I was a fanatic for that show when I was a kid. This is stuff I would have dug. Oh, it looks like he's doing a little Doctor Who there, maybe, with the scarf. But look, this thing survived the years for one reason and one reason only. It was the beautiful solo done by Florence Henderson. No, it was not that. It was right after that when friggin' Kiss got up and did their first television appearance ever. So it survived. Look, if you love bad 70s humor and you love variety shows and you love Kiss, Paul, it's worth a watch. Throw it on, get some cocktails and enjoy. Technically speaking, it's not great. All right. Now we head into the top tier of specials that I was genuinely excited for as a kid. This is the stuff that I was chomping at the bit to watch. Number one here is the Fat Albert Halloween special. Do you hear the little ding in your head? Filmation. I loved Fat Albert as a kid. I grew up with it. I know it's got a connection now to Bill Cosby that makes it all kind of weird. But dude, Fat Albert is legit a good show. It really did teach some good lessons to kids, and it was fun, and it was funny, and it's very memorable, obviously. And so in this one, it's kind of what you expect from Fat Albert and the gang. They're out having some Halloween fun, but they're learning some lessons along the way. There's some kids who are trying to prank people in cruel ways. They kind of interact at one point with Mudfoot, who's like this, I guess not exactly homeless, but kind of homeless guy that they know. And he kind of takes their candy, but they don't really mind because he's Mudfoot and he's cool. And he's got some things to tell the kids, usually some wisdom to depart. And then there's this lady, Miss Bakewell, that everybody's convinced is like, scary and mean. She lives in this old Victorian house by a cemetery, and like they think she's and she's doing some mean stuff to the kids, and turns out, of course, she's a cool old lady. And so the Cosby kids learn a few things about life, and they learn to be better human beings, and it's pretty cool. This actually brings up a little story from my father's childhood, because in their neighborhood, they had this old lady who lived by herself in this little house, and the kids were convinced she was a witch. She was like a wicked witch, this old lady. And so Halloween comes along, and they're going to go soap her windows. These little jerks are going to go soap this old lady's windows, which, by the way, it is difficult to clean. It's like, it's not cool, man. But they're going to go because she's a witch. And so they go creeping up to her house with their soap. They got their little costumes on. And as they get right up to the house, this old lady, one of the greatest human beings who ever lived, busts open the door, dressed up as a witch and cackling. And my dad and his friends took off about 100 miles per hour, scared the crap out of them, and taught them a good lesson. I think they ultimately came to learn she was a nice old lady. They might have even gone back and gotten some treats from her or something like that. But dude, one of the greatest pranks ever pulled in history, in my opinion. I don't know that lady's name, but God bless her, and she did right. She taught them little turds a lesson. Number two, for ones I was super excited about, Disney's Halloween Treat. There were a couple names for this, slightly different specials over the year. It was, a collection of Disney cartoons. Look, and at the time, again, we don't have DVDs, we don't have VHS. This is the only way you could see some of this classic Disney animation at the time was in specials like this, and it was a Sunday night thing. This actually technically wasn't a special. It was like Wonderful World of Disney, which was like every Sunday, which was like a mainstay for most of us back in the day. But this was, Halloween time. They do this particular one. And one of the things that made it so great was The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Now, I don't think they played the full thing. They might have. I think they may have clipped it. But you got the bit at the end with the chase scene, which I personally think is one of the greatest pieces of animation ever produced, just from the art, from the motion, from the pacing, from the music. Absolutely fantastic. And that was something, man, I always looked forward to as a kid. And as an adult, it's the best, man. It's so good. So now we come to the Queen Mother of Halloween specials, the one that you absolutely could not miss. I know everybody knows what this is going to be. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. Look, in my opinion, it still lives up to the hype. We still watch it. My wife and I watched it when we were in our 20s, when we didn't have a kid at Halloween time. When we got a kid, we watched it every year since. I've probably now watched this thing every single year of my life. Well, actually, probably every single year of my life. I don't know if my parents watched it when I was like 1 or 2 years old, but as soon as I had a memory, it's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. Again, it's funny, but it's also poignant, and these productions, via Charles Schultz, via the folks, Bill, I think Melendez, I don't know if he did this one or not, he might have, but they were real good at getting sort of the little lessons in there without you necessarily knowing you were learning anything. I mean, in this scene, in the party thing, you get Charlie Brown being friggin' humiliated when they draw the friggin' jack-o'-lantern on the back of his head, and giving him poor Charlie Brown shit. But you learn a lot from these things, and of course, Linus and Sally in the pumpkin patch, waiting for the Great Pumpkin. She's starting to get impatient. He looms up. It turns out to be, of course, Snoopy. Linus faints. You got the bit at the end where with Linus and Charlie Brown kind of talking a little philosophy about life. Absolutely amazing, and you did not miss this one. This was like the one you had to get in on. This one, if you missed it, you were going to regret it until next year. And Mom and Dad knew. Mom and Dad knew. Things got planned around the Charlie Brown Halloween special. Folks, that's what I got for today. Just some memories of my childhood. Halloween, one of the great holidays of the year for kids. The candy. I mean, look, we didn't get candy every day when I was a kid, so it was a big deal getting candy on Halloween. Putting on the costumes, going out and trick-or-treating, and the awesome specials. It was a great time to be alive. And, if you got kids, make it a great time for them to be alive. You can put these things on the menu for them too. Something for them to remember in their childhood or in their adulthood when they got kids of their own. Pass these traditions down. Pass the traditions down. They're worthwhile. I hope you liked this video. If you did, you please give it a like. That would really help me out. You might want to subscribe if you enjoy the videos I do. I have a whole bunch of them. I talk about all sorts of pop culture. Try to keep it positive. Try to keep it fun. Try to keep it happy for the most part. Maybe share with a friend if you think they might enjoy this. That would be awesome. In the meantime, God bless everybody out there. Try to be kind to one another. Give a little extra fun-sized candy bar to the little kids, coming around trick-or-treating. Hey, this is another one my dad used to do. When the teenagers would come by and do the trick-or-treat, he'd say, okay, do a trick, and then I'll give you a treat. And they'd be like, what? He goes, yeah, come on, like, stand on your head or something. And they'd be stunned, and he'd give them the treats anyways. But mess with the teenagers a little bit. Be cool to the little kids. Give them a little something extra. And, try to have some fun, man. Because, look, the bad stuff's going to happen. Got to enjoy the good stuff while it's there and while you can. So happy Halloween to everybody. Sit down, watch a few specials, watch a few horror movies as you get up to it. And then, hey, let's all get ready for the trick-or-treaters. And until then, I will see all of you next time around on Dad's Den of Pop Culture.